We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. The first thing people get wrong about betrayal is this. It doesn't explode all at once. It leaks. It slips into your life quietly. Missed dinners, shorter replies, a smile that doesn't reach the eyes. It settles into routines until one day, you realize you're living beside a stranger who still knows exactly how to pretend. Lauren and I have been married 8 years. On the surface, we were solid, comfortable, predictable. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, the kind of place where neighbors waved but never asked real questions. Every weekday looked the same. Alarm at 6:30, coffee brewing, her scrolling her phone while I tied my shoes for work. She worked in marketing, always on calls, always stepping outside to take them. I worked in logistics management, long hours, steady pay, boring enough that no one ever suspected I was watching everything closely. And for a while, I wasn't. I loved her in the simple ways. Bringing home her favorite soup when she said she wasn't feeling well, fixing things around the house she never noticed until they broke. I believed in effort, in loyalty, in the quiet kind of love that doesn't need an audience. But something shifted. She stopped asking about my day, stopped sitting beside me on the couch, started guarding her phone like it was fragile glass. The laughter she used to save for home appeared elsewhere. On screen, she tilted away from me. Conversations she ended the moment I entered the room. When I finally asked if something was wrong, she didn't hesitate. "You're imagining things," she said calmly. Too calmly. "You're stressed. Maybe you're projecting." That word stuck with me. Projecting. Because the more she accused me of being distant, distracted, or suspicious, the more I noticed how perfectly those words described her. I didn't confront her again. Not then. Instead, I changed my routine. I left for work 10 minutes later. Came home 10 minutes earlier. I listened more than I spoke. I stopped filling the silence with reassurance and let it stretch until it became uncomfortable for her. That's when the cracks widened. She started picking fights over nothing, accusing me of being secretive, asking pointed questions about my schedule. Once, she even laughed and said, "You're not cheating on me, are you?" Her eyes searched my face like she was hoping to catch guilt. I smiled and said no. What she didn't know was that I had already started preparing, not out of revenge, not yet, but out of clarity. I needed the truth, clean and undeniable. I needed to know if the woman I loved was still standing in front of me, or if she'd already left and just hadn't bothered to say goodbye. And I wasn't doing it alone, because while Lauren believed she was the one observing, tracking, testing, someone else had been quietly watching her too. Someone patient, someone meticulous, someone who understood exactly how liars move when they think they're invisible. I hadn't planned revenge at first, but when the truth finally began to surface, I realized something chilling. Lauren wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of being exposed. And that was when everything changed. By the time certainty arrived, I had already stopped sleeping properly. Not because I was afraid of the truth, but because once you sense it, your mind refuses to let go. Every detail becomes louder, every silence heavier, every lie sharper than the last. Lauren's routine hardened into something mechanical. Mondays and Thursdays became late meetings. Wednesdays turned into team dinners. She'd come home with a smile that felt practiced, her perfume stronger than usual, her mood oddly light. She laughed more, not with me, but near me, like I was furniture she had learned to step around. And the accusations continued. One night, while I rinsed dishes, she leaned against the counter and said casually, "You've been on your phone a lot lately." I looked at her reflection in the window. "Have I?" She shrugged. "Just saying. If there's something you want to tell me." There was again the trap, the invitation for me to confess to something I hadn't done, so she could feel cleaner about what she had. I dried my hand slowly. "If there were," I said calm, "you'd already know." Her smile faltered, just for a second. That night, after she fell asleep, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Once, then again. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to anymore. Because earlier that week, during a lunch break I never used to take, I'd met Serena Walsh. She didn't look like someone fueled by anger. No shaking hands. No wild accusations. She was composed, dressed simply, eyes alert but tired in the way people get when they've been carrying something heavy alone for too long. She sat across from me in a quiet cafe and said, "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I needed to," I replied. "You said you had information." She nodded. "About Lauren." Hearing my wife's name spoken by a stranger felt surreal, like watching your life from the outside. Serena slid her phone across the table. Not dramatically, just enough. Photos, time-stamped, locations, messages cropped carefully, never sensational, never exaggerated. Patterns laid out cleanly, patiently. Months of overlap. Lunches that ran too long. Hotel lobbies. Parking garages. The kind of places people choose when they think they're being careful. "I didn't start this to hurt you," Serena said quietly. "I started because I thought I was losing my mind." Her voice stayed steady, but her hands tightened around her coffee cup. "The man she's been seeing," she continued, "is my husband, Derek." That name settled like a stone. He told me he was traveling for work. Conferences. Client dinners. I believed him, because I wanted to. Then one night, I saw a notification pop up on his phone. Lauren's name. I didn't confront him. I watched. She looked up at me then. "Just like you." Something unspoken passed between us. Recognition. Not romance. Not comfort. Just understanding. We compared timelines. They matched too well to deny. Serena hadn't followed Lauren out of jealousy. She'd done it out of necessity. She wanted the truth before she broke her own life apart. And when she had enough, she didn't rush. She waited. Organized. Verified. Then she found me. "I'm not here to tell you what to do," she said. "I just believe in informed decisions." I left that cafe feeling hollow, but clear. Lauren wasn't confused. She wasn't drifting. She wasn't unhappy and searching. She was deliberate. The days after that, I played my role carefully. The quiet husband. The predictable one. I cooked dinners. Asked about her meetings. Kissed her forehead before bed. Gave her no reason to suspect I knew anything at all. But inside, something had shifted. I stopped imagining apologies. Stopped wondering if there was a misunderstanding. Stopped hoping for honesty. Instead, I began planning. Not to humiliate her. Not to scream or expose her publicly. But to let her face herself without escape. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's precise. Serena and I spoke sparingly. Always practical. Always focused. She had her own reasons for patience. A shared business account. Legal boundaries. Years of partnership she needed to untangle cleanly. We agreed on one thing early. No scenes. No shouting. No warnings. Just truth, delivered in a way that couldn't be denied. Lauren, meanwhile, grew bolder. She criticized me more openly. Questioned my choices. One night, she laughed and said, "You know, if you ever did cheat, I'd find out instantly." I met her eyes. "Would you?" She held my gaze, then looked away. The irony almost hurt. The invitation came a week later. She told me she was meeting friends for dinner. Casual. Last minute. Didn't invite me. I told her I had plans too. Which was true. Serena had arranged everything quietly. A neutral place. Public enough to stay calm. Private enough to talk. No surprises for me, but plenty for Lauren. The night of the dinner, I arrived early. Serena was already there, sitting with her back straight, hands folded, calm as ever. "You ready?" she asked. I exhaled slowly. As I'll ever be. Lauren didn't know what waited for her inside. She thought she was the hunter. Thought she was walking in to catch me in a lie that would justify everything she'd done. She didn't know she was about to meet the one person who had seen every step she tried to hide. And when she did, there would be no shouting. Just silence. The kind that makes panic echo. Lauren arrived 10 minutes late. That alone told me everything. She entered the restaurant with purpose, eyes scanning sharply, jaw set tight. Not the look of someone meeting friends, but someone preparing for confrontation. She didn't see me at first. Her attention locked onto Serena, seated calmly at the table, posture relaxed, expression unreadable. Confusion flickered across Lauren's face. She slowed her steps. I watched the moment recognition didn't happen, because Serena wasn't supposed to exist in her world. Not like this. Not here. Lauren reached the table and stopped. "Who are you?" she asked, voice clipped, already defensive. Serena looked up, composed. "You must be Lauren." The sound of her name, spoken evenly by a stranger, hit harder than any accusation. Lauren's eyes shifted to me then, sharp, suspicious, searching my face for confirmation, for guilt, for something she could grab onto. I didn't give her anything. I stood, pulled out her chair, and said quietly, "Sit down." The command surprised her. She hesitated, then sat, arms crossed, chin lifted, already rehearsing whatever speech she'd prepared for catching me in the act. "This isn't funny," she said. "What's going on?" Serena slid a menu aside and folded her hands. "I think it's better if I explain." Lauren laughed once, short and forced. "Explain what?" "Why you're sitting with my husband." There it was. The possessiveness. The assumption that control still belonged to her. Serena met her gaze calmly. "Because I've been tracking your relationship with my husband for months." The color drained from Lauren's face so quickly it was almost imperceptible, like a light dimming rather than shutting off. Her mouth opened, then closed again. "That's ridiculous," she said. "I don't know you." Serena nodded. "That's true. But I know you." She didn't raise her voice, didn't accuse. She simply reached into her bag and placed her phone on the table, screen facing up. Lauren didn't touch it. She stared at it like it might bite. "You don't get to do this," Lauren said finally, eyes darting to me. "Adrian, say something." I looked at her, not with anger, not with satisfaction, but with a clarity that felt heavier than either. "I already know," I said. Her breath hitched. Serena tapped the phone once. Images appeared. Nothing graphic, nothing sensational. Just timestamps. Locations. Messages that spoke for themselves without drama. Familiar places Lauren had sworn she'd never been. Nights she claimed were spent at work. "I didn't want revenge," Serena said quietly. "I wanted certainty. And once I had it, I wanted you to know you weren't as careful as you thought." Lauren's composure cracked. "This is insane," she snapped. "You've been spying on me." Serena's voice didn't change. "I follow patterns. The same way you followed excuses." Lauren turned to me then, desperation seeping through the anger. "You believe this? After everything we've been through?" That was the moment, the pivot she'd relied on for months. Emotional history, shared routines, the idea that familiarity could override facts. "I believed you," I said, "until you gave me reasons not to." Her eyes searched mine, looking for softness, for hesitation. I gave her none. The server arrived with practiced timing, glanced at the tension, and asked if we were ready to order. I smiled politely. "Just a check, please." Lauren snapped her head toward me. "What?" "I'm done," I said calmly. "I've heard everything I needed." She stood abruptly, chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You set this up, both of you." "No," Serena replied gently. "You set this up. We just stopped pretending." Lauren's voice shook now. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." I cut in. "You didn't make a mistake. You made choices. Repeatedly." Her anger flared, reaching for its last defense. "You weren't paying attention anymore. You were distant." I felt invisible. I nodded once. "And instead of telling me, you replaced me." Silence fell heavy between us. When the check arrived, I paid it without hesitation. No drama. No final speech. Just a quiet conclusion. Lauren watched me sign the receipt like it was a verdict. "You're really walking away?" she asked, voice small now. I stood, straightened my jacket, and looked at her one last time. "I already did. You just noticed." Serena rose as well. She didn't glare, didn't smirk. She simply said, "I wish you'd chosen honesty earlier." Lauren collapsed back in her chair as we walked away. Alone, exposed, stripped of the illusion that she was in control. Outside, the night air felt sharper, cleaner. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt resolved. Because revenge isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your dignity without asking for permission. And as I walked to my car, phone buzzing with messages I didn't read, I knew this wasn't the end. It was the turning point. The quiet that followed surprised me more than the confrontation itself. No shouting, no frantic messages, just silence, thick and unsettled, like the calm after something finally breaks apart the way it was always meant to. For 2 days, Lauren didn't come home. On the third morning, she texted a single line. "We need to talk." I stared at the message for a long moment before setting the phone down. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I finally understood that I didn't know her immediacy anymore. Instead, I went about my routine. I woke early, made coffee the way I liked it, not the way she preferred. Went for a long walk before work. Not to clear my head, but to feel how steady my steps were without someone quietly destabilizing me from the inside. When Lauren returned that evening, she looked smaller. Not physically, emotionally. The confidence she used as armor had cracked, and beneath it was panic she could no longer disguise. She stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. I never meant for her to go this far. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move from where I stood. It didn't go far, I said calmly. You did. She swallowed. You embarrassed me. That word, embarrassed, told me everything I needed to know. Not remorse, not regret, just fear of exposure. We're done, I said quietly. Her breath hitched. You can't just end it like that. I didn't, I replied. You ended it months ago. I just stopped pretending it hadn't already happened. Over the next weeks, things unfolded with an inevitability that felt almost relieving. Serena moved forward with her own separation. Not angrily, strategically. She'd gathered enough information to protect herself, to ensure clarity instead of chaos. We didn't speak often, but when we did, there was an unspoken respect. Two people who had chosen restraint over destruction. Lauren, meanwhile, tried every version of herself. The apologetic one, the defensive one, the nostalgic one. She reminded me of trips we took, plans we made, inside jokes she thought still belonged to us. But memory alone couldn't rebuild trust once it had been dismantled piece by piece. The real revenge, the kind that actually lasts, wasn't in watching her unravel. It was in refusing to be pulled back in her gravity. I changed my life quietly. I moved out first, not because I was losing something, but because I was gaining space. Space to breathe. Space to think without suspicion gnawing at the back of my mind. I focused on my work, poured energy into things I neglected, fitness, reading, friendships that didn't come with emotional tolls. And slowly, something unexpected happened. I stopped replaying the betrayal. Lauren's messages became less frequent, shorter. Then eventually, nothing. The last time we spoke was in a lawyer's office. Clean, professional, no theatrics. She avoided my eyes, and for the first time, I didn't wonder what she was thinking. I didn't need to. Walking out of that building, I realized something important. I hadn't won because she lost. I'd won because I refused to become bitter. Some nights, I still think about how easily things could have gone differently if honesty had arrived earlier. But I don't linger there. Regret is only useful when it teaches you something, and I'd learned enough. Trust is built through consistency, not promises. Loyalty is proven through choices, not words. And self-respect begins the moment you stop negotiating your worth. The restaurant wasn't the end. It was the reveal. Lauren thought she was exposing me. Instead, she walked straight into the truth she'd been avoiding, and I walked out lighter than I'd been in months. Not angry, not broken, just free. And that was the most powerful ending of all.